Back in 1958, and I know I don't look that old, but back in 1958, I had a childhood cancer called retinoblastoma. And at that time, most of the kids who had that either had both eyes removed or passed away from the cancer. I was fortunate enough to get radiation treatments that saved my right eye and gave me great eyesight from that point on at a year and a half old till I was 49 years old. The radiation from 1958, the side effects were starting to kick in my retina in my right eye, which is all I had left was my right eye, was literally falling apart from and so within the period of about 20 months, from the age of 49 to 51, I went completely blind in just that short period of time. So it was the side effects of the radiation, but then on the good side of it, it gave me 49 years of sight. One of the things that really bothered me when I started going blind was, what does a guy do? What do blind people do? Because 80% of blind people are unemployed. At least that's the number I see. And so when I started thinking about coffee, of course, right away you start thinking about what are going to be the hurdles. I mean, is it even possible? You know, and people always say, oh, you can do whatever your mind set. And I just, you know, that sounds really cool, but I can't take your car keys and go find your car and drive off down 395. So you can't do whatever you want. And so you start to get into something, you go, well, how am I going to pursue this idea of roasting coffee? How am I, as a friend told me, he says, yeah, you could get in the coffee business, but pouring for customers, that's going to be a little tough. But, you know, how do you make this work? I guess if you're going to be a blind guy, this is a good time to be, because technology has brought about a lot of cool things. So just the idea of weighing something out, if you think about it, other than a physical, tactile scale that you would have to feel your way through, you know, I now have talking scales, so I can weigh my beans out to the proper weight to put into the roaster. But the coolest device that really allows me to actually physically roast coffee is there's a company out there that makes a talking multimeter. I was able to attach this talking multimeter to the roaster to tell me the temperature, because that's what I was having trouble with, is how do you tell the temperature inside the roaster? There's all kinds of little gadgets for cooking at home that talk to you, but they weren't adequate for not only a constant readout, but also the high temps that we use in coffee. You know, coffee roasting, almost all of your finished roasts are up in the 400s, and so that was a big breakthrough for me when I found that talking multimeter, which I wasn't the first guy to use it. Fortunately, well, I don't know, fortunately or not, but there's a blind guy. In fact, the joke is, I'm the only commercial blind guy west of the Rockies, and he's on the east side of the Rockies. So there's a blind guy in Boulder, Colorado, who also roasts, and so he had actually found this talking multimeter, and I got a hold of him and was able to adapt that talking multimeter. So the talking scales and the talking multimeter allow me to actually do the physical roasting. And you could probably do it without it, but it'd be awfully difficult. The other devices that I use quite a bit in is then identifying my product after I get it into the bag. And a company puts out a talking UPC code reader, the little code that runs across the scanner at the grocery stores. This allows me actually to download my particular UPC codes that I apply on my different products. Now I can operate in the bagging area where I can put this reader on and it'll actually read me what the product is in my hand. I also have a pen reader, which you can apply stickers onto things and download into those stickers what that, maybe it's a box of some kind of supplies. And that way I can put these stickers on different items and I can download and read these stickers. So those two devices just in the warehouse allow me to identify, because that was the other problem. Once it leaves me, I use Braille to follow my coffee through the scales and through the roaster, but once it's put into a bag, I found myself lost again. But because of these two devices, I can keep track of most of my products. And that helps tremendously because then I can actually do part of the bagging. And then, of course, the other thing is the talking. You know, sighted people are all, they just take for granted their little Star Trek telephones now that talk and have all the audio to them. But I have a computer that also talks. And I don't use a lot of my computer other than the scanner. I use my scanner quite a bit that can read back instructional manuals or different coffee literature, different magazines, back and forth to me. And those are kind of the things. So the multimedia, the talking scales, the UPC code reader, the pen reader, the talking computer. I mean, these things are just a godsend that allow me to actually function in my little world here at Blind Dog Coffee.